On another exciting episode of the Animation Deliberation podcast, we're hitting the final stretch. We got one episode left, but we got two today to talk about. We're going to talk about Metamorphosis Part 1 and Part 2 for Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. Right after these ads, we have no control over.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
I'm Margot Robbie, and I play Barbie.
And I'm Ryan Gosling, and I play Ken.
Max is now the exclusive streaming home of Barbie.
So cool.
And the Max with Ads plan is included with your Cricut $60 unlimited plan at no additional cost. Log in with your Cricut username and password to experience Max on all your favorite devices.
This is the best day ever.
It is the best day ever.
Don't miss Barbie, now streaming on Max. Phone plan streams in standard definition. Programming subject to change. Fees, terms, and restrictions apply. See CricutWireless.com for details.
It's time to get your checking account to zero with free checking from PenFed. That's zero ATM fees, zero balance requirements, and zero time spent waiting for your paycheck to direct deposit because you can receive it up to 2 days early. Open your account with just $25 and see how big zero can be. Apply online today at PenFed.org/free checking. Early direct deposit eligibility may vary between pay periods and timing of payers' funding. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA.
We made USAA insurance for veterans like James. When he found out how much USAA was helping members save, he said,
It's time to switch.
"We'll help you find the right coverage at the right price." USAA. What you're made of, we're made for. Restrictions apply.
All right, here we go.
Great.
Hey there, I'm Nick. I'm in my 20s trying to figure out life and what faith has to do with it. I've got a lot of questions, probably very similar to the ones you've got. But here's the thing, I'm looking for a better answer, and it's difficult to find someone who can help. So I'm bringing on Kyle, a mentor of mine, who's going to help me find a better answer.
You can find a better answer wherever you listen to podcasts.
Sing along if you know the words. A 1, 2, 3, it's time for animation, deliberation, a conversation and a celebration of our favorite action animated series, yeah.
Yeah, welcome back to another episode of Animation Deliberation, the podcast where we take action animation and cartoons seriously, but not too seriously. We're your hosts. I'm Zuhair Ali.
And I'm Andrew Rogers.
And I haven't seen you in a while, man.
I know, it's been so long.
It's been a whole 3 days of actually hanging out in person.
Yes, listeners, we apologize so much for not getting anything out to you last week on this topic. But Zoo was traveling to come out and see me. We had a lovely weekend together. We went to go see a football game, the Washington Commanders versus the Los Angeles Rams, if you were curious. You know, it was a fun time being in LA, but neither of us had watched anything that the other person had watched, and we were both exhausted by the end of the weekend.
I was caught up.
You were caught up on this, but you hadn't seen Boy and the Heron yet.
That's true.
So that's what
I still have.
I had seen Boy and the Heron, you had seen JJK. So it just didn't work out for us to record anything. But either way, we were tired. We were playing Pokemon. We had other things to do.
I gotta tell you guys, for all the dweebs out there, if you go to LA, check out Little Tokyo. I was on autopilot at one point because we were there for 4 hours.
Oh, we were just going.
I somehow managed to
block area.
I somehow managed to not buy a thing. It was a very difficult task, and I was just so exhausted 2 hours in. I had been out all night the night before, I was out all morning, and then just trying to walk, but it's still gotta look at this one, gotta look at that one. And then at one point Andrew was like, I think this is the end of it, and I was like, no, I'm following the balloons. There's more over here. Then we hit a whole of applause. I'm just like, it's so cool, but I'm so tired.
Yes, we walked through so many stores, every anime figurine you could think of, every Pokemon plush, every Gundam put together project. They have everything here. So if you can't make it to Tokyo, Little Tokyo does do really good in the way of merch and other things like that. The food also is not too bad either. So
I'm going to do a grocery store just because it's part of Little Tokyo. Why not?
It's Don Quixote, which is a big deal in Japan. So Little Tokyo was very fun. I was glad that I got to watch you just fully weeb out pretty much.
Yeah. But one of the biggest things about being in LA is because my body was not used to the lack of humidity, I was very dehydrated. Very dehydrated, very thirsty. And what was the one thing that
It's time to get your checking account to zero with free checking from PenFed. That's zero ATM fees, zero balance requirements, and zero time spent waiting for your paycheck to direct deposit because you can receive it up to 2 days early. Open your account with just $25 and see how big zero can be. Apply online today at PenFed.org/free checking. Early direct deposit eligibility may vary between pay periods and timing of payers' funding. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA.
I really just had a thought, and I'm like wondering how Liquid IV would go in hot water. Because like the one reason that I'm not drinking Liquid IV as opposed to tea is because like, you know, you got to get that hot water to soothe the throat when you know you're going to be talking for an hour, as opposed to the Liquid IV that I was drinking all day. I'm like, how would it go in hot water? Do you think that would help to like
The immune support one actually
continue?
does taste good in hot water.
Is it good in hot water? I
Mhm.
feel like that might have to be my next step after this.
Yeah, because it's all citrusy anyways, so.
Ooh, you're right. So there you go, listeners. Pro tip from Zuhair and possibly myself. We'll see how that goes. Liquid IV in hot water.
Can confirm.
Can confirm. Well, as you know, we would usually be doing a synopsis, but we missed an episode, and reading 2 synopsises sounds long, and I don't know if I really want to do that with a
I'm still jet
questionable
lagged, so
voice.
honestly, like, I'm never gonna be the one to like keep the episode short or anything like that. But if we can omit something to just get straight to the conversation, I'm
I was about
100%
to say,
for
we
it.
can omit the boring part, the part that is just us reading off what everyone hopefully watched, and instead just talk about it, because holy crap, I can see why the entire time you were in Los Angeles, you were just biting your tongue
Dude.
because you had so many things that you wanted to say to me when I hadn't seen the episode.
I kept making references thinking that you had seen it because I kept forgetting. And it's like, oh, I hope that doesn't spoil anything.
No, you didn't spoil anything for me. I didn't. I wasn't paying that much attention to the way that you were saying things because, oh my gosh, this can it get better every week? I don't know, but like the trend keeps happening. Where that Metamorphosis Part 1 was so good. Seeing Toto be this like all in was phenomenal.
Yeah, it really is nobody safe. And I was genuinely worried for Toto, so I'm glad it was just his hand. I'm curious like how he's gonna, because he's a smart dude, like how he's gonna figure out how to use his curse technique again.
Well, does it have to be flesh on flesh? That was the like first question that I asked myself. Like, if he goes Anakin Skywalker here and ends up with like a robot, does it still work?
Yeah, or if somebody knows some type of reverse technique that could help him out. Because coincidentally, Facebook Reels just sends me random anime scenes all the
What?
time.
What?
Like the Instagram Reels are on Facebook now, right? But like,
Too
I
many
guess I
reels, man.
follow 2 very different things on each one, so it's like sometimes I get like a very different algorithm for both.
Gotcha. Okay.
So on like the Facebook videos or Facebook Reels or whatever, I get anime clips a lot, anime clips and DIY like home stuff, and like car detailing.
5 minute
Like those are the
crafts.
3 things that it's like going across. But the scene with Toto versus the special grade from season 1 came up, and he specifically said that it has to be a clap,
There
which
was
is
so
which is why he was able to do it with Mahito's hand,
right.
but he
Like
couldn't do it with his nub.
until we had the whole like joke of like it's in your spirit in Metamorphosis Part 2. But I'm just like, you know, you could clap other things. There are a lot of jokes with could clap other things, but I will leave those to the listeners to think about what those are. I was like, there's one way that
quick,
he could clap. He could
quick
just
shameful plug. I just finished doing
shameful.
323, and we were doing this holiday version of this game called Cake or Caken.
Oh
So
no.
it's like a really zoomed in picture of cake or somebody's ass, and you have to guess which one it is. So obviously, we're making a bunch of cake and jokes. The fact that you brought that up on this show, like, oh man, just can't get away
No.
from it today.
When he was even on the episode when he was saying things about like, oh, I gotta make it clap, I was like, yeah, you could. There's definitely ways to do it. But yeah, I think that he's really just joining the elite rank of one-handed hot men is all that's happening.
Yeah.
At this point, we have 2 trends. We have silver hair with a blindfold, and we have one hand. And I don't know why this keeps happening, but here we are. I had a nickel for every time. I have 2 nickels, but it's weird that it happened twice.
Yeah. Yeah, the first person that crosses mind is Sasuke having one arm now. And there was a part where he was fighting somebody and he only had the one hand, so he was like grabbing the other person's hand and like getting them to do the hand signs for him to do his techniques, which was really cool.
Oh
So the
yeah, I
fact that
didn't
like
think about that being a like requirement for Naruto.
yeah, so for him to just grab Mahito and just like make him clap his hand to get wrecked
Oh, get
wrecked
right.
by a black flash was awesome.
Honestly, the entirety of this fight was so just it was dramatic, it was over the top. Might be one of the best like you haven't seen my final form reveals that I've seen in a while because like Mahito's final form was so cool. Like I still hate him as a character, but as for the way that they looked and the way that that fight went down was
Yeah.
epic on so many proportions.
Yeah. Like now we see why he was so excited to like figure this out.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like they were teasing it for a reason, but I don't think I expected it to go that far. If anything, I expected more of like, I'm actually your father, like human form or something along
Mhm.
those lines. So to instead just get raw power was, it was so cool. And then the entire like battle happening on his cursed like bodies was like, who needs a domain expansion when the battlefield is just like entirely yours?
Yeah. Yeah, the fact that he picked up from Gojo's technique so quickly.
Oh,
It's like, "Oh, this is smart."
that hurt me when he revealed like I was paying attention and this is what Gojo did was the 0.2 seconds and it's like no you can't do this too, you can't get away with this shouldn't be allowed, you weren't even there, like you were just watching, you didn't even get attacked by this.
Yeah, that's another scene I think it was yesterday, came up on the same doom scrolling where they had to explain all that and he was like, "Do I save the people or do I take out the special grades?" And
He
lo
has
and
point 0.2
behold,
seconds to figure it out.
yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I
Mahito was there. It's a weird thinking that Gojo was taking on like what, 4 special grades at the same time?
oh yeah, Gojo's no joke, and I was even just thinking about how long ago it felt like that was because that was like 2 months ago, but it was super intense because Monica's finally catching up. So I've just been checking in with her, like where she's at. She keeps saying these things. I'm like, God, that did happen this season, didn't it? That wasn't like 3 seasons ago. So much has evolved and happened that I forget who was where and when.
Makes you wonder where the show's going.
To sad places, honestly. I don't know. Like, I guess we'll kind of transition into talking about the next episode because we get the revelation that we're not even going to see the fight with Meme, Wee Wee, and Sudogeto. And instead, like, they have fled. I'm just trying to figure out like how does anyone explain what has happened? They can't just say this was an earthquake. They can't just say like there's a whole area entirely destroyed. Like how do they explain this? How do they come back from this? How does anything happen? Half of the Jujutsu sorcerers are probably gone. Like where do they go? Where does this go? What is happening anymore?
I mean, so people know that sorcerers exist
No, I don't think they do.
because whenever there's a big thing, like it's the like law enforcement or whatever that calls the sorcerers in, right?
No, I don't think it's like common knowledge. I feel like they have people on the inside, but I don't think it's like, oh yeah, just anyone knows like the sorcerers and cursed spirits exist because I don't think they want people to like be living in fear because fear helps to create cursed energy.
Oh, I thought it was one of those like, well, since the normal people can't see it, we'll just operate like as low key as we can.
I mean, yes, but like I think some people know. I wouldn't be surprised if law enforcement knows, obviously, but I don't think it's as like high profile
Yeah, because
as like
Gato in the movie was like taking in clients and stuff to get those curses exercised.
yeah,
Meme works for money.
yeah, like they work for money. There definitely is. I don't know. Reddit, what answers do you have for me?
I think it's like this weird middle ground of like they don't know how to explain it, but like I think it's I don't think it's a secret thing, but not everyone in the world cares because they can't see it.
I think it's more on the secret end, because I think about like how when they have interacted with civilians, the civilians just have no idea what's going on. Like, I don't think they know who these people are. I don't think they were like, look, Gojo's here. He's wearing like the Jujutsu uniform or whatever. Like, they're just out there living. I don't think.
Because also think of like Demon Slayer, right? Like demons aren't hidden from anybody, but they're obviously causing problems. But this organization is just kind of like on the side of law enforcement, and
But I don't think like the regular law doesn't know about
no, because
them.
remember he had to be like excuse the fact that I'm carrying a sword.
Yeah, exactly. So like it's
But they're
not
not
really
like
an.
secret either. It's just like such a niche thing that like the general population doesn't really care about it.
But I think it's also easily explained away by the fact that Demon Slayer takes place in like the Edo period, as opposed to this taking place in the modern day, wherein like back then people were uninformed. Tanjiro probably didn't know about demons because he was like living in the mountains with his family up until that point. Whereas I think it's also like how fewer people are coming into contact with them in that world as opposed to in this world.
It could, if we're going modern, it could be like us with like aliens supposedly roaming around
Yeah, I
or
think that's
popping in and
exact.
out. Like
that-
people
That's
believe it's there, but the general population won't like expect to.
No, that's honestly exactly how I view it. Like, there are superstitious people that are believing in curses and different things like that
Yeah,
in this version of Japan, but it's not the populace. Like, did you start watching Mob Psycho? I feel like you may have
I
mentioned that you
was
did.
halfway through the second season when I got distracted and started watching something else.
But there you go. Like, I think that's a perfect example of like, oh no, regular people believe in like psychics and curses like happening to them, and most people are just like, ah, these don't exist. But then there's the handful of people that can actually like see them and take care of them.
Yeah.
They're like, oh no, this is a problem. I wouldn't
Okay,
be
so I think we
surprised.
finally got to the same page of like where we think this world's at.
Yeah, I don't even think law enforcement really knows. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like the management, whatever, like makes them think that it's a sect of the government closing things off. I
Yeah.
don't know. There's too many logistical questions. Like, this show already does a bad job of explaining the powers. You really think they're going to break down how the government structure works and
Yeah.
how they can close down the entirety of Shibuya? Like,
Yeah, because I'm trying to think of like when the kids were murdered at the theater and how sorcerers showed up, like based off what the case was like, but they actually had permission to like go in and look around. Like those are the things I'm thinking of when I say that.
yeah, because I do feel like I remember something about them
It's
saying
like
there's a
shield agents coming up. It's like, who are you?
yeah,
Don't worry about it.
yeah, don't worry about it.
It's
And then
above your pay grade.
there's some sort of cover up to say like, oh, here's what actually happened, that they end up telling the news and the authorities. But I don't know if they're necessarily tied together or if it's just like, again, above your pay grade.
So back to the episode. That was a fun derail.
I think that's the kind of things you should listen to this podcast about. Every now and again, I'm like, we just
Absolutely.
talk about what you see on screen, but then we get those conversations where I'm like, this is actually interesting. This dives into the extracurriculars,
And this is why we skip reading the synopsis.
so that we could just do stuff like this.
We had time for that. But yeah, as soon as I was confused with, so the way that Gator rolled up and he's like, do you want me to save you? Like, I thought it was going to be like one of those typical anime tropes of like, oh, you got beat, you're useless to me now. Like Vegeta and Nappa type of thing. But then it made me realize when Mahito was like trying to touch Gato that Mahito probably knew that Gato was just waiting for him to hit his perfect form. Like, that's what he was waiting for Gato to be able to absorb him and utilize his power.
I assumed it was either perfect or him being weak enough, because there's the whole like multiple soul thing. He might not have been able to absorb until like
Mm,
he was just down to one. Like, how do you absorb all the others? That's not really curses, because
yeah.
that's the whole thing, is curse absorption.
Yeah. So that's why he was like training him and like teaching him and everything. So it's like he could get to that point where it's like, you are perfect for me now.
Yeah, and perfect for some sort of plan. I feel like
He's
the
probably trying to
reveal
make
was
himself his own body.
yeah, the reveal was interesting. I don't know. I like this whole reveal of like, oh, it's actually like one of the most evil sorcerers to ever exist. I feel like it would have been cool if we knew who this was beforehand. Like, I'm sitting there like, oh, it's cool. This person obviously has a scheme that they're going on, and that's how this whole like back end magic has been happening. But
It's like
just
the
the fact,
Voldemort of the Jujutsu world.
yeah, like I think it was everyone's reaction made me care about it, but just from like an observer perspective, I'm like, but wouldn't it be interesting if we had already heard name drops of this person? Or
Mm-hmm.
if they had been like referenced of, oh, we haven't seen anything like this since such and such, or anything along those lines. I think it could have been interesting, but regardless,
Cracked me up when the archer
the
was like,
one,
me?
yeah, me, I am also, they had so many of like the old school season one funny moments in this episode
Mm-hmm.
where it was just like Panda in this form, and then like, oh, his name is also Kamo. Yeah, Kamo. So it's like, wait, me? There were just so many of those little moments. We didn't even talk about the entirety of the Toto in his imagination scene from last episode.
Oh yeah, that was delightful.
I was just like, I see in the top it says in his imagination. What is actually happening? What's really going down? But the fact that it was started by him dropping the locket and seeing those two, just his crush
That
next
was
to his
so cute.
brother, I was like, oh my god, time to stop this. And then and I'll just tag on with more of the funny moments. The pheromones comment,
Yeah,
Panda being like,
dangerous
are you
pheromones.
sure you're not like doing something dangerous here?
Yeah, that part had me dying. While we're doing season one callbacks, they used a lot of the music, especially the music that used to be like the transition to commercial one. So the fact that they were reutilizing a lot of that for the fight scenes was really cool to hear.
Yeah, the music was really good. I feel like they also threw in, they brought in the end song like halfway through the episode during the fight scene. And I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, oh, okay, are we getting ready to wrap up? I feel like we just got here. What's happening? But no, they were just like, this is going to happen, and you're going to get the full extended version of this song because it went beyond what we usually hear in the end credits. And I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
this is super cool. This is really jamming right along. But yeah, it feels like we're hurtling toward the end of the season because yeah, we have the reveal that Choso is like his biological brother, not just like the Toto level of brother. And I
Yeah,
need
which
more.
we only know about Yuji's grandpa, so
Oh, that's right. Okay, in my head, I
yeah,
was
we
like,
only
how do
know
we
about his
not know
grandpa.
about
We know
this?
nothing about his parents. And Choso was saying that he has three parents because his actual dad was manipulated by the thing. So it's like, what if it was a similar thing for Itadori?
Was it that his actual dad was manipulated, or was it that his, like, it was a demon, or not a demon, a curse and Kamu here?
Yeah, like a curse manipulated one of his parents, and he was like born of this demon or this Kamo brain thingy.
Yeah, I don't know, something along those lines, because it was interesting to see that the person had like the stitching across their head still.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like the Zeus stories of like shapeshifting and then just like having a parade with regular humans. Like, what if this brain demon, Noritoshi Kamo's been doing that? Pseudo Ghetto?
Yeah, all I can think of is like Star Wars, the whole like there was no father. Shmi just like had a baby with the Force. Like I'm
Yeah.
getting those similar vibes. So
But the fact that Itadori doesn't have either of his parents, like, what's the dark story there?
yeah, I didn't even think about the fact that we didn't know the lineage. So that's super cool. Like, what does his grandfather know about any of this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what part did they play?
Did they conveniently die in a car crash?
Yeah, it could be something along those lines. You know, Harry Potter. This we're just gonna break out all the pop culture references here with not having parents. But I feel like this kind of answers the question of we asked where the show is going. These are a lot of questions that I do not think we're getting answers to next week.
I'm
I don't
forgetting
even.
his name again, but they name dropped the guy from the movie. Yuta?
Did they name drop Utah?
They like called his last name.
When did they do that? I missed that. What was that about?
I forgot the actual context of it, but they name dropped him and I was like, huh.
Honestly, though, where is Utah? Like, that is a question that I have had multiple times this season. Like, give me Utah. Utah could be helpful.
Yeah, Okotsu?
Is that just one of the big families? Is that what it is?
It could be because Satoru said that he's like a distant cousin of his.
Yeah, so maybe it's something along those lines, because I know that was a big part of the thing, was like, oh, we have the big family set up, and you have the Gojo clan, you have the Zenin clan, and then I think you have one other.
It's probably this one, the Okotsu.
Is it, or is it
I
Kamo's?
don't know.
I More questions than answers. Again, I don't know how we only have one episode left, though. I want to be like, oh, we'll get answers. I'm like, we still have to deal with like what's happening in the moment now. We have to deal with who's fighting.
Just gotta tell with Mappa figuring their shit out.
Yeah, I heard a joke the other day, and I was like, that's really true. No one hates JJK characters more than Gigi or Gege. I don't know how you pronounce the author's name, but I feel like he really has it out for all of these characters in some way, shape, or form, because it was like, yay, more of our friends that we know arrived. I'm like, oh no, more of our friends are cannon fodder to just take down on the screen now, aren't they? Like, the more people that show up, the more problems I feel like we're going to have.
All right, you're right. The three Gate Sorcerer families of the Jujutsu world are the Zenins, the Gojos, and the Kamo.
Nice.
They are the three distinguished clans that have existed for over 1,000 years, having already existed in the Heian area, the golden age of sorcery.
There you go. So that's exactly why this is also a big deal, because this evil entity comes from one of the big three families. So yeah, you have that to go off of. That's crazy. But then, like, again, we have one episode left. We have a lot of fallout and talking to deal with, but we also still have Yuki just showing up out of nowhere at the end of this episode. Like, last character that I thought was going to come back from the
Yeah.
first 5 episodes is just here now. Like, retrospectively, we're near the end of the season. Those first 5 episodes actually did so much whilst doing so little.
And
Like,
of all the intensity that was in the conversation that her and Gato had, that was the question she needs an answer to. I thought it was gonna be like, what did you decide about eradicating humans? It's like, no, kind of girly like.
yeah, I think that's also part of it. Like, well, what's happening with this conversation? Does she still feel like that's a viable option? Does she still agree with that previous path that she was talking about? Or does she know that this is not the Gato that she talked to all those years ago? Like, what information does she even have at this
Yeah.
point? But even back then, 20 some odd episodes ago, which is crazy to say, we said, like, oh wow, we've now seen all of the top sorcerers on screen, but there's only one that we have not seen their power, and now it is time to change that. And I'm
Yeah.
so excited. They've brought the house down with all of the animation between the fights in the last 10 episodes. They've just continued to pump out more and more. Like, Mappa, we have given you so much grief over this, but wow, did you like you saved it all for this. Honestly, these last 10 episodes, I have like
Yeah.
no complaints when it comes to how the fight scenes have gone, how great everything has looked, how easy it is to track all of the action. Like, it feels like they're pulling from the manga pages in a very, very easy to understand translation. Like, at no point have I been that confused as to where the action is going, what's actually happening on screen. Instead, they're just making it happen. And I feel like that's not easy to do.
Yeah, at first there was a lot of fights that we had to keep track of, and then it just got to the point where they were like, let's just skip May May. We're just going to send her to Malaysia to do whatever things with Wee Wee.
I had seen that manga panel pop up on my feed prior to, and I was like, okay, whatever, it's fine. This is gonna be like 2 seasons from now. They're not actually gonna animate this. It's whatever. And then it popped up on the screen. I was like, no,
Lo and
no,
behold.
why are we doing this? Like, people, and then I saw it in my feed later after I watched the episode. People being like, oh my god, they actually did it. I was like, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. It was
Yeah.
nowhere near as like, because again, I had seen some of the Chainsaw Man manga panels before that happened.
Mm-hmm. Hey,
It,
she
it
unraveled her braid.
She did. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of art of that around. But yeah, it was. They saved it for this. I'm kind of glad, because you and I were even talking like, what's going on with Mei Mei? How do we get that to go down? Now, instead, let's just jump to this.
I'm fine with
Let's
that.
hopefully save some people from the prison realm. I feel like the fact that that's even still a question terrifies me, because I don't know what they do if we don't.
Yeah. Like, do we start season 3 with Gojo still be chilling in there?
We could. That could be like the next quest, is to like free him from that, because but also like how much do negative sorcerers and curses run amok if he still is? I think that's the bigger question.
Yeah. They definitely have their work cut out for them, despite being very understaffed at this point.
Yeah. Also, where are the headmasters of the schools? Can we get them in here, please? For like I want to see the old man fight because A, you always get cool old man fights in anime, but B, like he should be here to save all these people. So let's make that happen.
Yeah, like
for
how
us.
did the Kyoto people make it all the way over from their city before the JJK teachers made it over, or headmasters or whatever?
Well, we know the JJK headmaster is like waiting in the wings for the whole like
Oh yeah,
this
because
is
he's
where
with
we're
the
going to
medic.
heal people. Yeah. So we've at least seen him, but I'm like, where's the old man from the Kyoto school?
The guitarist.
Yeah,
He was interesting.
he was interesting.
I
Like
love when Gato was just talking shit to him all the time, though.
and we could get more of that. I'd be okay, but I feel like if this is not an all hands on deck situation, I don't know what is. Like,
Yeah, right.
are you telling me there's not another school hiding somewhere up north that we could be pulling people from? Like, come on now.
The Frost chick was really cool.
Yeah, had we seen her power before? Because I was like, this is new.
Not that I recall.
We haven't seen this. Yeah, and the way that everyone was super surprised at like Frost being that powerful, I was like, this is interesting. Does that mean that there's some like elements that are not normally as powerful? Because there's some things like the blood, they were like, oh wow, we've seen this before. Whereas the ice, they were like, oh whoa, this is something that we're not usually used to.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be curious to know if like different techniques have known thresholds of power.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things you just need some training to get it to that level. Because you even see like Todoroki, like his siblings aren't nearly as proficient as he is with just producing that much ice at once.
I feel like we cannot be comparing quirks and techniques right this moment.
I mean, I'm like thinking of the one ice character in Naruto too, so it's like I'm hopping between different animes and just how they perceive the use of ice techniques. So,
I mean, we're going to talk about ice bending in Avatar next. Like, how deep do you want to dig this hole?
not
Because I feel like
technically an anime.
it's not technically an anime. It's Korean animation with American English. Yes, I know, but that was the only other example that I could think of off the top
We
of my
brought
head.
Harry Potter and Star Wars into this. Like, let me have my Naruto and My Hero Academia moment.
I get it. I know what you're shooting for, but it's not the same. That'd be like comparing, like...
It's not that far off either.
I mean, it's not, but the rules of the world for every one of these is different because they write it themselves. I want to let you have it. I do, but I can't just, like, say, okay, yeah, Pokemon rules apply. Go. Let's just put Geto in a Pokeball.
That's what he did to Gojo.
As
Just
soon
a
as
square.
as soon as it started coming out of my mouth, I was like, wait, this is a really bad example.
I win!
He does win, and for all of that, I think the listeners win because they just got to hear me in full defeat there. And he's holding up a Pokeball to camera just to rub it in. I do think that's all that I have to say, though. These episodes were phenomenal. Like I said, we're hurtling toward the finish line. As much as I'm like emotionally ready for it to end, I'm also a little sad because we've been doing this for so long.
I would have rioted, absolutely rioted, if anything happened to Miwa. I thought she was actually going to have a moment and do something cool, and then it was just her sword breaking, her almost dying. I was like, oh no, don't actually be useless. Please stay alive. I love you. And
that was the moment where I was concerned that everyone was cannon fodder. Like, that was where it was. I was like, oh no, 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 no.
And I get that it didn't matter, but at one point where they were just like, yeah, Chosa's pretty exhausted. This could be 7v1 right now. Should we help out? Yeah, I guess we should help out. And then the ice person intervened. It's like, okay, well, that was useless anyways, but probably should have stepped in sooner.
Well, I mean, can you blame them? Like, he literally was like, this man tried to kill me, like, 20 minutes ago. Because, like, yeah, we saw that how many episodes ago, but it's probably been roughly 20 minutes.
Just try it out. John.
Oh, gosh, that was... I really want them to both come out so we can actually have some interaction between them and be like, are we cool? Is this a thing now? Should we move in? Like, what's happening? I kind of want to see it.
I did like that explanation of like why he was freaking out, because he had that level of a connection with his brothers. Because before it was just kind of like, can we get some context here? And that was like what feels like 10 episodes ago. So I'm glad that there was some. I mean, sure, like we still have answers, but at least it wasn't like just out of the blue. It's like, ooh, yeah, like give me something to progress on.
Yeah, it explains the flashback. It explains how it happened, and it felt really gratifying. I don't know why, But it was like we saw it all go down and just had no
we
answers.
talked about how bad Jujutsu Kaisen is at explaining things.
And maybe because it was like perfectly foreshadowed, perfectly made sense. They said it, and they're like, "Here's the explanation." And I was like, "Yeah, I have no more questions." Like, they did it. Good job.
Good job indeed.
Yeah. All right.
Next week is it.
Next week is it. It's going to be sad, but we have plenty of other animated things coming around the bend. We've already had a ton of anime announcements for the first part of 2024, so we're going to be looking forward to that. We have Marvel's What If starting tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, on Disney Plus. One episode
was it
a
not
day.
Christmas Day?
No, I believe it's the 22nd, and then it's 10 days from there. Because there is a Christmas episode coming out on Christmas Day. But yeah, there's 10 episodes. I'm sorry, listeners, we do not have it in us to do episode a day for the next 10 days. So maybe we'll do a mid-season or a end of season something.
Yep,
we'll see what's going on. But yeah, we'll want to round that up totally. In the meantime, definitely check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. I know that they allegedly, I should say, have the energy to do 10 episodes in 10 days. We'll see how that goes, but definitely keep up with them. I know Jay Scotty's been talking about that over on Multiverse News with them. And speaking of Multiverse News, if you want to check out the most recent episode that came out, I believe it would be the most recent episode. Regardless, I was invited to guest on the Multiverse Newscast. We talked about Marvel animation, anime, movies, my opinions are all over the place, as you know, so I got to stretch my legs a little bit, not just talk about animation, got to talk about, the Oscars and Air Bud, funnily enough. So if you want to really hear my thoughts on Air Bud, that conversation went on oddly long, so I'm hoping they kept it in. But yeah, I was on the Multiverse Newscast. It was a great time, and it is a great show to generally check out if you want to keep up with all of your entertainment news. Outside of that, Zuhair, you already kind of did that shameful plug, but just in case the people weren't paying attention, where else can they find you outside Animation Deliberation on a pretty regular basis?
Yeah, 323 with Reed Murphy. That's REID. Football season has 3 games left, and then we're hitting into the postseason. I actually am going to be making my first game for the show as we get closer to the Super Bowl, too. So that's going to be very exciting.
Oh, so you're telling me Cake versus Kaken was not your idea?
No, but spoiler, I did win this week.
Zuhair knows
No,
his
I am just
cake.
victim to it.
Yeah, sure.
I know my pixels.
You really want to have the words cake and pixels that close to each other in a audio to editable format here?
Edible format?
And oh jeez. Well, I said what I said. It's here. It is an edible format. Let me tell you what, whether it be cake or cake, it is delicious.
Yeah. So I feel like we're going to be doing a lot more like season recap episodes in the next, coming weeks and possibly months, just because all of us have had big life changes and holiday season is exhausting, and it's been tougher and tougher to do like weekly things. Like we haven't forgotten about Invincible or Scott Pilgrim or Spy Family or whatever I'm forgetting to mention. We haven't forgotten it. There's just a lot going on in life in general. So we'll do our best to... Oh, Attack on Titan, that's one we forgot. Chrissy, I did get that email. I've been dying to talk about it. We just have not been able to get our ducks in a row. So I think this just makes more sense to like talk about a lot of things at once instead of trying to do a bunch of weekly stuff. So we're doing our best, guys.
Yes, and if you have any thoughts for the show, anything that you would like us to cover, anything that you're just like, hey, this would be an awesome way for me to consume the format as a listener, as always, reach out to us on all of the different platforms that Zuhair lovingly mentions at the end of every episode. Because, yeah, we're always looking for feedback, always looking to make this show better, and always looking to have fun with it. Because that's what we do this for, is fun and for all of you. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
and as always... Oh, wow. I was going to steal it from you.
Go for it.
No, I don't know. Does it feel right? Does it feel wrong?
Do it. It's not mine, so I really don't care. It just needs to be said.
That's true. As always, keep tuning in. That's TOONIN.
And as always, stay wound.
And I still get the last word, muscle.
Thank you for listening to the Animation Deliberation Podcast, a proud member of the Stranded Panda Network. If you would like to contact us, you can email animationdeliberationpodcast@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter @animationdelib1. For this and other great shows, you can visit strandedpanda.com or join the great community that is the Stranded Panda Chat Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/spchat. Tune in next time, and remember, stay whelmed.
The United States Border Patrol has exciting and rewarding career opportunities with the nation's largest law enforcement organization. Earn great pay, outstanding federal benefits, and up to $20,000 in recruitment incentives. Learn more online at cbp.gov/career/USBP.
It's time to get your checking account to zero with free checking from PenFed. That's zero ATM fees, zero balance requirements, and zero time spent waiting for your paycheck to direct deposit because you can receive it up to 2 days early. Open your account with just $25 and see how big zero can be. Apply online today at penfed.org/free checking. Early direct deposit eligibility may vary between pay periods and timing of payers' funding. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA.